What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Scott, are you a little nervous? You getting a little worried? Things are kind of going off the rails a bit.
They are going off the rails, but you know what? You look down, and I know you hate doing this because you're going to give me every reason why some of these don't count, but they do have the most wins in baseball still.
They do have the most wins don't count. Wins count. You play who's on your schedule. The thing that concerns me a bit more is that the good teams they've played on their schedule, especially in the last 3-4 weeks, they've lost.
That's actually one of the negatives that I inserted. I put a negative into the show notes today.
How could you not after the past series and past couple series?
Yeah. No, it's you look down up and down the schedule and who they've played. You take out the AL Central, and the Milwaukee Brewers are, I think, right now the only other playoff team that they've won a series against. So yeah, it's a concern, the fact that they're not winning these games, and we're seeing guys like Carlos Rodon get lit up by teams that have pretty good offenses. So that's not a good thing. And when you listen to his remarks about talking about, yeah, they just put really good swings, they attacked my strengths, they just did things better than I can do. Like, I don't like hearing that, to be honest. Like, if that's what you're doing and that was your strength,
I gave it my all out there and it just wasn't good enough.
Yeah. So yeah, that's concerning. But where I'm most concerned really is when you see the injuries are starting to stack up. They're starting to stack up, and you look around and you see what's happening in the bullpen, which is something we've been talking about for the entire season, but it's really coming to a head. And then you see the transaction of Chasen Shreve, who's back in the minor leagues.
Blew my mind. That dude is still in the league.
Yeah, 34 years old.
I would have guessed 44.
Yeah, I had to look it up. He came over in the David Carpenter trade, if you remember.
I do remember.
With David Carpenter for Manny Banuelos to the Atlanta Braves.
One of the killer bees.
Maybe having the Braves in town made them remember who Chasen Shreve was. They're like, oh yeah, we made a trade with them, so let's go see what he's doing. But
you also put you just texted the group at some point last week. Phil Bickford. That's all you said. You're
Phil
like,
Bickford. Like,
how is that a name? How is that a baseball player?
Dude, we got Michael Tonkin and Phil Bickford coming out there with like. And I can't even hate on Michael Tonkin anymore because he's been really effective.
The third best bullpen arm they have right now.
Tonka, as I love to call him, because he has been he's been a truck out there with that lip gloss that he has above his upper lip. But that's the concerning thing for me is the injuries stacking up. First base is back to the abyss that we've seen for a long time. Maybe with a little bit of hope with a guy like Ben Rice, but there's just a lot of adversity happening right now, and they've lost 3 series in a row, so they got to face that adversity head on and beat the mess.
What do you think the opposing dugout's reaction is when they hear over the PA announcer, now coming in to pitch for the Yankees, Phil Bickford?
It's like a TV character. It's like a TV pitcher name from the 80s. That's what it is.
What?
Phil Bickford was the starting pitcher, for the Yankees in like 3 80s movies. It's crazy. The names that are coming out, the names that started this season were crazy, and now we're on to Phil Bickford and Michael Tonkin. Guys that were on zero people's radar.
For sure. All right, well, let's start with the negatives from the Braves series. Another series lost to a playoff team, a team that has legitimate aspirations of competing in the playoffs. 3 straight series losses, Baltimore, Boston, Atlanta. Boone said after Friday night's blowout, this is just a, quote, tough stretch, and that he thought it's a good thing the team is going through struggles right now because they're going to come out the other side. And to his credit, I did agree with some of his statement because he said, up until recently, everything has gone our way this season. And he's right about that. And now things are not going their way. And I will at least... It's tough for me to do this.
Go ahead, give him some credit with what he says.
I'm not giving
Boone
credit.
Out of his mouth.
What's tough for me to do is I am going to wait and see how the Yankees come out of this stretch.
Okay.
But if this stretch bleeds on into July, into the All-Star break, at a certain point, no matter what Boone is saying, to the media after loss after loss after loss, I will no longer be able to sit here and say this is just a tough stretch, because eventually the team is either going to have to turn it back around, or we have to call a spade and say, oh, you know what? Smell test says this is the 2022 season all over again, where the first couple of months, everything is coming up roses. Shit doesn't stink. Pitchers are going into the 7th inning. Bullpen is getting the job done. Offense is getting clutch hits. And then eventually that just doesn't happen anymore. And then what happens? Team starts to lose some games, lose some series. So at a certain point, I'm not going to be able to say that anymore.
I mean, that's very natural, right? I'm proud of you for waiting things out a little
I
bit.
could do
Let's
the
just see
thing
what
that you
happens.
thought I was going to do and say sky is falling, this team blows, and here we go.
Yes.
Like they're going to.
And then I'll remind you, they have the most wins in Major League Baseball. Of all of the teams in Major League Baseball, the Yankees have the most wins.
That
of all
might
of
not
them.
be the case in 4 days from now, though.
Well, that is the case today as we're talking. And you do have to give it a little time. And there are things that are happening to this team with injuries and you know, they're facing that adversity. So yes, it's natural to go back and think about what happened in 2022. They came out of the gate. They were the best team in baseball. They were on historic pace, all of that stuff. And this year we've seen, you know, similar play. They've gotten a hell of a lot more out of their pitching staff than anybody could have ever expected. The offense has been going. Juan Soto and Aaron Judge have been all world. And, you know, they haven't really gotten any production out of the first base, and they're still in this position. So there's a lot of glass half full type things because they actually have faced adversity along the way. I mean, Judge's April was basically an egg. Rizzo hasn't done anything at first base all year. You're not seeing a ton of production outside of 2 and 3. Volpe obviously has been
Recently,
pretty good.
you haven't seen production outside of Judge and Soto. Before that, like we talked, like Verdugo has had many, many big moments for the team. Volpe, despite his streakiness, has been a positive offensive player. Stanton, who's the next negative going on the IL, Stanton has had a 122 OPS plus this year. He's been 22% better than league average. Is it MVP level Stanton from 2017? Of course not. But he's been a positive factor in that lineup to give them more than just Judge and Soto. But now, recently, it seems like it's only Judge and Soto surrounded by Volpe and Verdugo, who haven't really been doing that great. And then the rest of the lineup is pretty much an egg.
Yeah, well, I mean, you go down the DJ LeMahieu is just still
Non-factor.
Is not there. Yeah, and at some point, the problem with him, like you would say naturally, at some point, playing time is going to come into play here, but it's not going to because they have no choice. They have to play him. He's got to rebound for the Yankees to kind of come out of this. He's got to play himself out of this because there really are no other options unless they just go back on the waiver wire and start, you know, making deals with Oakland and Chicago and, you know, any other crappy team who's trying to avoid some type of a contract with their lost season. I mean, that's what's happening right now. So they need a bounce back. They need him to. It's not bounce back. They need him to wake up. He needs to wake up and hit.
You're asking him to wake up and remember and think it's 2020. Like this is now.
It's not going to be 2020. I understand it's not going to be 2020, but I mean, the man needs to actually get some extra base hits. You know, he needs to have some type of a slugging percentage that's going on his baseball card. You can't come out there and do nothing.
What do you think his OPS plus is this year?
It's really bad. I don't know what it is, but
take a guess.
337.
No, OPS plus. So like 100 is league average.
Oh, OPS plus. League average, he is 57.
36.
Jesus.
He's like worse than a pitcher.
Yeah.
Logan?
Yeah.
So I know we were talking that he's obviously not going to get back to 2020 level. So last year in the second half, which I know not leverage, but close enough time frame in 60 games, he was 273 with an 809 OPS or 121 OPS plus.
Yeah.
Do you think he could get to that?
That's where he
needs to be. He needs to get back to that.
That's realistic.
That's realistic. It was recent. And that's what we thought. That's what
it was after a foot injury.
Right. Going into this season, that's what we were like, if he can do that, we'll take that.
377 on base percentage, when he's at his best.
What was the OPS plus in that stretch?
Second half of last year was 121.
I mean, shit, I would take 100 at this point. Like, I would take just league average offense.
That would be what an 809 OPS this year is like a 135
Right.
probably OPS.
But okay, so like even if you can't get that, can you get 75-80% of that? Because right now he's a complete non-factor. But to your point, Scott, you can't take him out of the lineup because you have no bodies.
That's right. And that's the thing. And he plays multiple positions, so you're going to see him in the lineup a lot, especially now with the DH spot open with Stanton out. That DH spot is going to be a rotation of guys. You can't just throw in a J.D. Davis or a Ben Rice in that DH spot on alternating nights. It's going to be a rotation of Judge, and you're going to see Verdugo in there. You're going to see, because now Grisham's going to have to play, and Grisham.
It's going to be Judge and Soto basically using it as half days off.
Well, and I think you're going to see depending on the matchup again. You're going to see Gleyber Torres get in there. You're going to see DJ a little bit in there. But DJ's so versatile on the defensive side that he's going to be floating from first.
What's the point of putting DJ at DH?
Second.
If DJ's playing, at least get his glove in the field because he's not hitting.
Yeah, so it would be Gleyber. Gleyber would be the one most likely that would
Sure.
that would slot into that DH spot if that were the case, because then it's two right-handed bats, and LeMahieu's the better defender.
So we
still 20 games too. So
for DJ, yeah. Of course, yeah, but it's really bad. It's a really bad 20 games.
It took Judge how many games to wake up. So, and again, like this is a similar situation in the sense that didn't finish spring training, had rehab starts, but
started rehab, stopped rehab.
Yeah, right. And so I'm not scared to death of DJ LeMahieu yet, because he does look like he's healthy. As far as the way that he's moving around, he does look like he's got full mobility, full range. He's playing defense well. Like, I'm not seeing – this is exactly – it's similar to what I was saying. I had a hell of a lot more confidence in Aaron Judge, finding the light. But it's a similar situation in the sense that DJ hasn't had all of the time to get ready for the season as he normally would. So I'm still okay. I'm not out on a cliff with him yet.
And let's be honest, we all knew this was coming with Stanton. It was just a matter of time, right?
The injury?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that's just what happens with him. It does happen.
We reran a clip from, what was that, April 17th, I believe the date was, of 2023, talking about a hamstring injury of the guy just running the bases. And that's exactly what happened again this time. It's just what's going to happen. It's, quote, part of his game.
Let me ask you a question. This is going back to like the whole Jason Dominguez and like let's just take it easy on certain things. Do you think that if he pushed himself more in the off season and in spring training to actually run faster, to actually condition those legs to run faster, that we'd be in a better place to avoid these?
I thought he did
injuries?
push himself in the offseason, did new conditioning, didn't lift as many weights.
He did. No. But I'm specifically talking about like the mobility with the legs, like running, because he's clearly running with a governor on. He's not running at full speed.
Yeah.
He's going at whatever percentage he's going at, and he's not going above that percentage, and still we're dealing with
that's why I've always
strained soft tissue injury with him.
That's why I've always said with Stanton, like, yeah, you can DH him. That's not going to keep him any more healthy than if he's playing the outfield, like in the past couple of years. Like, I know you weren't going to put him in the outfield this year because you got Verdugo and Soto, but in previous years where you had literally no one playing left field, like it was essentially no one played left field last year, I'm like, just put Stanton out there because he's going to get hurt anyway. Just put him out there. What's the difference? Whether he DHs, whether he's playing the outfield, I feel like he's got the same injury risk.
And again, he's staying probably more loose if he's in the field every time too.
He has said in the past he likes playing the field better.
Yeah. So I don't know, there's you could go back and forth with him. There's a lot of what ifs, but when you keep the body in motion, it tends to stay in motion, and especially when you're dealing with the scorching heat that we've had on the East Coast, and just how thick it's felt as well. Like, dehydration plays a factor. When dehydration plays a factor, now all of a sudden you have a higher risk of injury and pulling muscles and doing things like that. So, I'm sure that contributed to his injuries. And I'm wondering if we look back, like when those injuries started occurring in the year, if there's anything with like when the the summer starts really ramping up if Stanton just like drops like a fly every time.
Last year he missed time with injury, but he was so bad that we were like,
didn't matter.
Okay, fine. Like, it's not the name Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup, but it wasn't the name Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup.
It's the same situation we're dealing with Rizzo this year.
Right. But this year, this injury is a big loss for this lineup. He was the third guy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big. He's been extremely productive, and he's come up and he's been really hot recently too.
And clutch.
Not only is he clutch, and not only is he hitting the ball out of the park, but he's getting big base hits. He's doing the little things right at the plate. So he's been. You said he's been good. He's been great to me as far as expectations go.
As far as expectations go, I mean, his overall numbers, like 122 OPS plus, is good. It's not great. I'm not going to put 22% better than league average as great, but it's good. But in big moments, runners in scoring position this year, he's hitting 292, 363 on base, 946 OPS. That is a 152 OPS plus. That is a big force in the lineup that you do not have anymore with runners in scoring position.
100%. The Yankees will actually feel him being away.
Yes, you will miss that. You will miss that when Verdugo or Glaber or LeMahieu was up in those spots instead of Stanton.
And I understand this is a 4-week thing, 4 weeks where he's gonna be resting, come back, and who knows when. We're probably looking at middle August at some point. But you do have the All-Star week in there as well, so you're kind of saving a week.
Trade deadline acquisition, Scott.
Trade deadline, yeah. Well, he's but it's from what they're saying, it's not. It doesn't seem like it's overly concerning. The concerning thing for me is that once you have a soft tissue injury with a guy like him, it's most likely going to flare up again. Like that's the thing. Like it can flare up again. It's crazy, man. I have never had. I'm going to use me as an example.
It's a good barometer. Yeah.
Thanks. The hamstring, not the hamstrings, the quads that I pulled. This was 2 years ago now, almost.
Yeah, when you pulled the Tanaka.
Yeah, I still feel it in my left leg, and I do. And when I put it's like I hopped a fence the other day. We have a fence in the yard, and I didn't feel like going all around to the gate.
What are you doing? What are you doing hopping fences?
Yeah,
at your age,
chased by cops. I'm running. So I hopped the fence, and when I went down on the other side, I didn't land hard or anything, but I more on my left leg. And I could feel it. I'm like, God damn, that's still there. Don't feel it normally, but when you put certain pressure on it, you feel it. Those soft tissue injuries tend to linger. And when you're a guy like Stanton, who's just a big body dude, that's not the most flexible guy in the world, clearly, it's going to linger and it could pop back up. And again, like as the summer gets hotter and hotter, those types of injuries can absolutely flare up. So this is one to watch, absolutely. And to get him back to the level that we've seen this year, that's where I don't know what we're going to get when he comes back from this injury as well. So that'll be trade deadline acquisition. I just microscope on what kind of an offensive player he is, even when he gets back.
And then what are they going to get in the interim? Like, how are they going to fill the shoes in the interim? That's also a big concern. But I think you just need to stop hopping fences. I think that's what we have learned here today.
I need to stretch more and fix it so I can hop fences with no pain.
Hot yoga. Well, I am very excited to tell you all about this new product from Timeline Nutrition called MitoPure. I've just kind of accepted, Scott, that I'm going to be feeling old and tired because I've got 2 kids, a lot of work, and it's just, that general aging feeling. But Timeline Nutrition says no, do not accept feeling old and tired. Timeline is a Swiss-based life science company and a global leader in urolithin A research. What the heck is that, you might ask? Urolithin A is a powerful postbiotic that is nearly impossible to get from your regular diet alone. MitoPure is clinically shown to give our cellular energy generators new power by triggering the body's natural process for removing and rebuilding damaging mitochondria. That's all a lot of words, right? But if you think of it this way, MitoPure is like little Pac-Man in your cells, chomping up all the damaged mitochondria that makes you feel old and tired, recycling it into new and healthy ones. They sent me this product. I started taking it a couple days ago. I'm very excited to start feeling young and energetic again, and I will tell you all about it as I go. MitoPure is the #1 doctor-recommended urolithin A supplement that is NSF and Clean Label product certified. And if you want to give it a try for yourself, Timeline is offering 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Go to timeline.com/Bronx. Once again, timeline.com/Bronx and claim the 10% off deal. A lot of big words in that ad read, so had to struggle through it. The third negative, Carlos Rodon. I feel like Carlos Rodon this year is the starting pitcher version of the bullpen, where up until recently, his numbers on the surface looked good, but then if you looked at the underlying things, you're like, that's not really that great. His expected numbers are not that good. Kind of the same thing we were saying about this bullpen, where on the face of it, it looks good, but it's a mirage. And I feel like Carlos Rodon, maybe, while not a complete mirage, it was just a matter of time before he ran into some bad outings because of his underlying numbers. And something that pissed me off, the Apple broadcast, again, like on Friday night, just they don't this is probably not just an Apple broadcast thing, this is a national broadcast thing, but they don't know what they're talking about. Because I think it was Dontrell Willis, right?
Details. They don't know the details of.
They don't know the details. Which how could they, right? But just talk to somebody, right? Talk to somebody. Dontrell Willis went on and on. It was Dontrell Willis, right? Yeah. On and on about how fantastic Carlos Rodon has been. One of the Yankees' best pitchers this year. No, he hasn't. He has not been one of the Yankees' best pitchers this year. Has he been a lot better than last year? Yeah. But you know what? I could have been a lot better this year than Carlos Rodon was last year. He's been all right, but just talk to anyone with knowledge of the team day in and day out, and they would tell you Carlos Rodon's numbers overall look good, but he's struggled in certain spots, and he's kind of coming back down to earth a bit, and his expected numbers are not very good. We'll see how he can bounce back from a bad Boston outing. And also in a spot which I said going into that game on Friday night is a big spot for Carlos Rodon because the Yankees bullpen has been toast. They just got beat up by Baltimore, and what does he do on Friday night? Crap all over the mound. Just big steaming pile of crap.
And, I already referenced his post-game remarks about the start and how the Braves were, attacking his strengths and just putting really good swings on it. Yeah, they were putting really good swings, but there were a lot of cement mixers in there too. There were a lot of balls right over the plate. I think the fourth inning, the home run, the game was already out of hand at that point, but the home run to Olsen was a really good piece of hitting. It was actually not a bad pitch. It was just he's just a damn good player, and that was a damn good swing. So if I'm looking at that one, that's. But the first
was it a 5-1 game at that point?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The first two were square over the plate, and just not good pitches. And when you're not pitching with a lead, that's the other piece of the Carlos Rodon, first half story. You gotta put that in there because we've looked at his expected numbers and we looked at all the deeper metrics, and I was playing the other side of it a little bit, saying that those numbers will most likely look a little worse if you're playing with a big lead because you're going to be around the plate as well. But now you're seeing a guy. Obviously, he let the Braves attacked him very early, so there was no big lead that he was working with. When you're up in Boston as well, that appearance gave up 7 hits, gave up 3 walks in 5 innings. That's a lot of base runners.
5
11
doubles
hits
against Boston. 5 doubles against Boston. And then he follows that up with 3 home runs against Atlanta. He's not just getting bled with singles to death. He is giving up extra
They're
base
squaring
hits.
it up. They're squaring it up. And it's because he's over the plate. And when you're pitching with a lead, you can be a little bit more liberal in how you're throwing the ball over the plate. You don't have to be exactly perfect. You're playing with a lead, and the team on the other side is going to be a little bit more swing happy. They're going to be chasing outside the zone most likely a little bit more because they need to get back into a game. When you're in a tight game, it's a different story. You're able to work the count, look for a pitch. And yeah, he just hasn't been good.
Hasn't been good, and they needed him on Friday night, and he wasn't good. Set the tone for the series. I know the Yankees bounced back with a good win on Saturday night, but that was hugely disappointing from Rodon on Friday.
Well, and also tip of the cap to Gomez, who was called up from AAA in that game and pitched, 4 2/3, I think it was, to save the bullpen. Because if he doesn't come in and shut the team down and actually give them some length so that the bullpen can be used in the next days, the Yankees are getting swept. They're most likely getting swept.
Well, I mean, Nestor had a good outing. I mean, he pitched 7 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs.
And so did Stroman. Stroman pitched well too, but at the same time, like you need to understand what is happening behind you. If you don't have some type of, if Tommy Kahnle's got to be pitching in those games early on as well, like now you don't have your most reliable reliever at that point. And I know Holmes came in and did well in a non-save situation, but at least they had the opportunity to go to him. If you don't get the distance and the length that Gomez gave them on Friday night in a blowout game,
Sure,
it could be a different setup.
Definitely. All right, so one of the positives we wanted to mention from Atlanta is Nestor's start, despite the fact that the Yankees lost the game against Atlanta, which is a good team. And then last time out, Nestor against Baltimore also pitched well, 6 innings, no runs, 5 hits. And so that's two pretty good starts against 2 good teams for Nestor.
Yeah, both at home.
Yep, he's good at home.
Yeah, he likes to pitch in the Bronx, so try to do that as much as humanly possible.
Before we talk about Volpe, Stroman also bounced back 6 2/3, 3 hits, 3 runs, pitching into the 7th inning, giving them depth in a game. They very much needed it. The offense also stepped up on Saturday night, so that was kind of a lopsided game, but it was still much needed.
And that's the difference between Marcus Stroman and Carlos Rodon at this point. When Stroman walks out of the when he jumps out of the dugout and he goes up to that mound and he realizes he doesn't have the best stuff. Even he started out not so great and ended up finding it. Ended up learning within the start itself and making adjustments that work. Maybe Carlos Rodon was making adjustments, but they weren't working. They weren't working until the game was out of hand. So.
Did you see Carlos Rodon? It was after the first inning, which he gave up. He gave up 2 home runs in the first inning, right? He comes back into the dugout and he's just barking at everyone.
I think he was just pissed off.
Yeah.
He kind of talked about that in his post game, just being pissed off at himself and whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'd be hot too. He should be hot. That doesn't mean he was crying also. Okay?
Was he actually crying?
Yeah. It looked like tears. Okay, it looked like tears. I didn't get a big lead. You guys didn't hit for me. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to see him.
Glaber gave him a nice pat on the back.
He did. He was consoling him. He was consoling him because he was in his feels after he just sucked for the 2nd time in a row. So he needs to get out of that. He needs to start pitching well in tight games. Like that's to me what I need to see from that man. I need to see a 0-0 game, a 2-2 game, and him pitch into the 7th inning. That's what I need.
It's a very specific situation.
I know. It's a specific situation. I need a tight game and him to actually to show up and keep the team in the game so that they have an opportunity to win late. Because that's what's going to happen in the playoffs. That's what you need to do in the playoffs. And unless we're finding some of these samples of him in a tight game against a good competition, it's going to be hold your breath with him. And, hold your breath early, too, because it's not like he doesn't get hit early. He gets hit early.
Logan, when we did that little playoff rotation exercise, what did we say Rodon pitches game 3? Because we don't trust him in game 1, and I would rather have Nestor at home than just roll the dice with Rodon.
Did he go game 3, or did we say heel ahead of him?
I think we said heel game 4, but at this point, no. But we were
No
stupid. Even though heel has struggled also recently. But
no, you made the good point of Cortez at home, and obviously Stroman won. So
yeah.
it was probably
and by the way, I had heel pitching game 1.
Well, you weren't there that day.
Yeah, but you asked me afterwards, and I gave you my opinion.
But that was when heel had been on a heater, and right now he's cooled off.
I still think I would go Stroman.
Now that Cole's back,
well,
do you want to do it again? Now that Cole's back,
it's Cole.
Well, obviously it's Cole.
Cole's number 1.
Okay, but the question is really who's 2, 3, 4.
I want Luis Gil in number 2.
Okay, so are you pitching Nestor at all in the series?
I don't know because the bullpen sucks right now, so it's very possible that I use Nestor as my guy whenever he's a fire extinguisher. I might use him as that.
Okay, so if he's going to the bullpen, that means it's Rodon and Stroman.
Yeah, and I would put
Stroman and Rodon.
3. Mm-hmm.
I don't think that if the Yankees have a home playoff series, I don't see how you don't start Nestor Cortez at home.
It's because you have Garrett Cole and Luis Heel. That's why.
Give me Luis Hill game 3 on the road, and give me Nestor Cortez. I think Nestor Cortez gives you as good a chance as Luis Hill, if not better, at winning a home playoff game with how good he has been at home. Not a small sample size. He's also pitched playoff games before.
I think there's a very good argument for that, and there's probably not a wrong answer for that. Plus, he's more of a veteran pitcher and could handle the moment. The only thing is then you line him up to pitch twice.
Not in a 5-game series. In a 5-game series, Cole is the two.
You're right. I'm thinking of a 7-game series.
But you line up the game 3 pitcher to pitch twice as well if it goes 7. The only guy that doesn't pitch twice in a 7-game series is the 4th pitcher.
I understand that. That has to go game 7 though. But you're 100%. You're getting the second guy. There's a higher probability that he's going to pitch twice. And in a closeout game, which you would think that would
closeout game at home, Nestor Cortez sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Look, I get it. There's a pretty even argument for both, I think.
Let's talk about Volpe. So I know this is something that you and I have argued about all season, the streakiness of Anthony Volpe. His last 7 games, 321 average, 387 on base, 851 OPS. He had the RBI double in yesterday's game. If you look at his streaks this year, first 20 games,
these aren't streaks. Hold on a second, real quick. This is what I asked of Logan before this. I asked to don't look at the streaks. Don't look at when he was hot and when he wasn't. Just give me a block, just one block. And in this case, he used 20 games, so 20 game blocks, just period.
So you don't think this is streakiness?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just giving everybody who's listening the context of the numbers that were pulled. That's all.
First 20 games of the season, I'll just do OPSs. First 20 games, 828 OPS. Next 20 games, 701 OPS. The next 20 games after that, 848 OPS. And then most recent 20 games, which is not quite 20 games, 591 OPS.
Yeah. So one thing that came out of here that I was hoping to see is that when you have a guy who's struggling, because let's just clear the air real quick. Everybody goes through slumps. Everybody. Juan Soto goes through slumps. Aaron Judge goes through slumps. The best players on the face of the planet go through slumps. Now you look for certain stats while you're slumping that makes you still a productive player, makes you still a contributor, and to me that's like you're looking at the walks. Are you still seeing the plate well enough where you're not just a complete zero? And when I'm looking at these numbers, especially the second set, the 21 through 40, where he's at 232 average, 323 on base percentage, 701 OPS, 9 walks, 25 strikeouts.
Look at the strikeouts. The strikeouts skyrocket.
Strikeouts are up, no doubt about it. But he is still walking. He's got the 232 average, 323 on base percentage is significantly higher than what we saw when he was low last year. And when you're looking for like the maturation of a player, and as you've asked for, can we cut down what those slump numbers are? Can we get them closer to the mean? I think he's doing that.
What do you explain the walks in his actually, if you look at his last almost 40 games, he's barely walked. He's striking out 3 times, 4 times as many times as he's walking.
I still think I'm seeing better at bats from the guy. I'm seeing maturation. I'm seeing progress from him, and he's coming out of them as well. He's coming out of these streaks, and he's able to get back to the really good Anthony Volpe. So I think he's got all of the tools in him to be able to do this and continue to make adjustments and progress as a player. Like all of this is positive in my opinion.
It's amounted to a 109 OPS plus, 9% better than league average.
Okay.
That's okay. That's not that good.
But again, in the moments, I know when you lump it all together and you're getting 9%, but the good is really good. The good is really good.
That means the bad is really bad.
But the bad is getting better also. It is. It's getting better.
Boy, the way you are twisting yourself into a pretzel to make
He is a second-year player. A second-year player. Again, I will reference how many other guys who have won the Rookie of the Year who have come back and flopped in their second year. I don't know what's happening recently, but there was the exact situation was happening in Arizona. I don't know if he's gotten on a hot streak, but you're starting to see it again. It's happened time and time again. This is a guy who's making progress. He's making progressions through his career. Not even through he's through the first half. Not even for the first half of his second year.
So
very happy
what
with
would
I'm
you
seeing.
like to see?
And he's playing damn good defense.
What would you like to see offensively from him in the second
Continue
half?
to cut down the strikeouts. And I think that's been a major emphasis in his approach this year. Continue to cut down the strikeouts. And when you're going bad, if you're not squaring up the ball, if you're not still work the count, be able to work the walks when you can. I want to see good at bats. I want to see the strikeouts being cut down, and we're seeing that from him.
I just want to see stretch. I don't want to see the stretches of no show. Obviously, players are not going to hit 900 OPS the entire season. Everyone goes through ebbs and flows, but the complete no shows are frustrating because I agree with you. He has the tools. He has the talent. He has the ability to be a more consistent player. What did we say about Gleyber Torres when we thought Gleyber Torres was going to be a Yankee for the next decade? What did we say about Gleyber Torres time and time again in 21, 20, or 2021, 22? Just give me consistency. The numbers at the end of the year look good, but man, when you follow it day in and day out, it just goes through stretches of nothingness, and that is frustrating, especially right now in a Yankees lineup over the next few weeks with Stanton on the shelf. You need consistency out of Volpe, Soto, and Judge. If Volpe is going to be a no-show for 15 games, that puts a lot of concentration on just Soto and Judge, and the lineup becomes a little bit easier to navigate.
When you look at the first, the second sample size of games, 21 through 40, again, I'm pointing to that one a little bit more because to me, like when a guy is slumping, he's still getting on base at a 323 clip, and he's going through struggles. That's improvement. It's improvement for him. Absolutely is. He was going through zeros last year. I mean, he would be an absolute negative contributor. And this is he's in the leadoff spot. He's in a high pressure situation.
The chunk games are a little misleading because his first 20 games, if you look at his first 10 games, he had like a 2,000 OPS. Okay.
Yeah, and then you can't. That's why I wanted to keep the block consistent.
No,
if you keep the block consistent, you're not pointing out just the streaks.
But you are glossing over the complete nothingness because, in fact, in his 21 to 40 stretch, his games 21 to 40 stretch, if you look at probably games 10 to 30, it was a complete zero, worse than last year.
I just when you're dealing with a season that's 162 games, I can't go so micro on those games for a second-year player. I just can't. It doesn't make sense to me. I need to see progression, and I feel like I'm seeing a lot of progression. I think his approach has been tremendously better than it was last year. I think he's got a better approach at the plate, a better feel for the strike zone. I feel like he's coming into the game. The defense has not lacked one bit. That's part of the game. The guy plays every day. I got no complaints to Anthony Volpe.
He when you look at all of his expected numbers, like in totality, like they were just all better. I mean, like his K percentage is down 8% from last year, right? Because if you're going to compare,
no, of course
that's
he's been.
significant.
Of course
8%
he's
is
been.
significant.
His launch angle is down from 14.2 to 5.5. That's
I love that. That means he's flat through the zone. That means he's making more contact.
14 to 5. That's
to 5.
Very significant.
His expected his expected batting average is up, his expected slugging, like everything is just like more complete. He's a more complete player. Not to mention this year he's literally in the 100th percentile of outs above average. He's been the most valuable defensive player. So you know what? If you're 100 OPS plus in this league, you stick as a top
Sure.
defender. So he's value wise, obviously he's in the leadoff spot and they need him to be a contributor with the bat, but you're getting 11 outs above average at shortstop at this point in the season, which is better than any player in baseball. That's huge.
And this is the type of player that he is. This is I think one of my bold predictions was him going to the leadoff spot and staying there, and the prediction was like less home runs, right? I think I said less home runs, significantly less, because I want him going gap to gap. I didn't know that the launch angle was that different, but that's significant.
Because he hit 20 last year, 21 last year, right? And he's got 6 so far, so he's on like a 12 homer pace.
Cool. And I want more doubles. Like I want you to be a double machine. I want you to be on base. I want you to get.
What did he slug last year, Logan?
Hits.
Because he's slugging 412 this year. Curious what he slugged last year.
He was at it's 383.
Okay, so his slugging is up.
And when I see him being that type of player where he's able to, get balls through the infield, beat them out, hit doubles, set the table for the guys, like that's who he needs to be. He's really settling into his role, and I think this is the long-term role for him as a player. This is his career role. He should be a doubles guy. He should be a high on base percentage guy, and he should wreak havoc out there. And at some point, I would expect him getting close to 200 hits.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
no one gets 200 hits anymore.
At some point, I say.
No one sniffs 200 hits anymore. 170.
You're going to see that.
Get the 170.
It's going to start ticking up. You're going to see with all the rule changes. Over the next 10 years, you're going to see more people do it for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, like last year he had a 46.7% pull percentage. This year he's at 24.
Oh, guys, I mean, of course he's been leaps and bounds better this year than he has last year. That's not what I'm saying. And overall, I would say Volpe has been. I've been satisfied overall with Volpe this year, but it's just like when, it's kind of like the kid in class who has such great potential. If you're a teacher and you're a little bit harder on that player or that student because the potential is there. I'm being a little bit harder on Volpe because I know the potential to be consistent is there, and I want to see it. Because he has been the third best player on the team this year, and now with Stanton out, he's going to need to be the third best bat in the lineup with him on the shelf.
I mean, I'm looking at Verdugo more.
Verdugo
as a
outside of the
guy.
Boston game where he hit the home run and then the double. Logan, can you pull Verdugo's numbers over the past month? Like, it's been awful. He's been nothing outside of that Boston game.
Yeah, that's the guy I'm looking at more so for the Stanton piece because he's got to up the production.
He's in a cleanup spot. He's in the power spot.
Yeah. So when you're looking at who's the type of player that's out with Stanton, Verdugo's the guy, and even Glaber need to be more productive.
Verdugo's last 28 days, 221, 612 OPS. His last 7 days, 056, 246 OPS.
Not non-factor.
He's negative player.
Yeah.
The last 25 at least games.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been a problem, and he's gonna stick out like a sore thumb with hitting behind Judge and Soto in the lineup if teams are pitching around those guys, and then Verdugo's coming up in big spots and he's got a 600 OPS. That is going to be very, very noticeable.
Yeah, no, he's definitely got to get more consistent and have some better. He's had some bad at bats too. He needs to
pull. He just pulls so many
off.
balls on the ground. He's been pulling a lot of balls on the ground.
Yeah.
Learning another language can feel daunting, or maybe you just don't have the time that you think you need to do it. With Babbel, you can be speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Babbel is great because their convenient courses can fit into your hectic schedule. Lessons are only 10 minutes long, and they are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language. Babbel is designed by real people for real conversations. There's no need to pay hundreds of dollars on private tutors or waste hours on apps that claim they can help you learn a new language. Babbel's tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching, so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, plus all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it out. If it's not for you, you get your money back. That's how you know it's a good product, because they are confident you're going to love it. Here's a special and limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Bronx. 60% off at babbel.com/Bronx, spelled BABBEL.com/Bronx. Rules and restrictions may apply.
And just for some context here as well, to see like what does it look like when a superstar struggles as well. Juan Soto last 7 days, also not been great. 3 hits in 27 plate appearances. He's batting a whopping 158, 407 on base, OPS 565, 8 walks. But that's a guy. That's a guy who gets his walks.
Though. That's the difference.
That's what I'm trying to
I'm
tell
not
you.
expecting Volpe to be. No one is Juan Soto.
I'm giving you context for one of the best players in baseball. That's what I'm doing.
And his god awful stretch, he's still getting on base 40% of the time.
He has 8 walks within that stretch. Yes, but It's a huge difference. This is a second-year player we're comparing it to.
No, I know,
second-year player.
Volpe.
The context
Volpe's
matters
not
here.
going to be Soto. No one's ever going to be Soto. Where
Right. But your
they
expectations need to be in line.
No, I'm not. Did I ever
this
once
happens
say
with the best players?
you're making my point? Okay. Because my point is, when Volpe struggles, which I know he's going to struggle, don't be a complete non-factor. Don't be a zero. He's a better player than a zero. The good players, even when they're struggling, are not zeros in the lineup, and you just made my point with the fact that Juan Soto is struggling, and he's still getting on base 40% of the time. Is Volpe going to be Soto? Of course not. That is an unrealistic expectation to hold anybody to. But don't be a complete non-factor when you're in a slump.
And again, on base percentage of 323 in those games as well for a second-year player, and I just compared it to top 3 player in baseball. Just trying to give you the highs and the lows here. That's all. I'm not saying he's going to be Soto by any means.
All right, so the Yankees have made some moves at first base. Obviously, Ben Rice has gotten some time, but they also acquired J.D. Davis from Oakland, who was released, not having a good year. You pulled some numbers here, though, on J.D. Davis. What was this, over the last season or over the past year versus Anthony Rizzo?
That was 2023. It was the last full sample size because he didn't have the plate appearances to really compare anything this year to Rizzo.
Yeah, and so J.D. Davis this year, 39 games with Oakland, 236 average, 304 on base, 630 slugging, 4 homers, 96 OPS plus. He's not been very good. Throughout his career, though, he's been a 112 OPS plus hitter. Last season, he had a 103 OPS plus when you compare that to Rizzo's season. But like Rizzo, that's an unfair thing to compare to Rizzo because of the concussion. Rizzo, since the concussion, has been one of the worst hitters in baseball.
I'm just looking at first base production.
First base production,
Yankees,
yeah.
And he's the guy who played first base. Concussion or no concussion, that's
Yep.
what we got.
Yeah, and so he's a right-handed bat. Boone has already hinted that they're going to platoon him and Ben Rice versus matchups, depending on lefty-righty matchups. Ben Rice, so far, you pulled some advanced numbers on him. His expected numbers in limited time look pretty good. Not hitting the ball hard, but his expected batting average, chase percentage, whiff percentage, walk percentage, like all of these things are looking good so far for Ben Rice, who was a good offensive player in the minors.
And
it's going to be a platoon.
Statistics. I'm not anyone who goes to advanced statistics, especially this small of a sample size. But I'm just looking for glimmers of what's happening here, just for some sprinkling and some context on the story for Ben Rice. And to me, when I look at the chase percentage, the whiff percentage, the K percentage, and the walk percentage, they're all in the 80th percentile plus, something right around there. And so that to me it means that he's not getting overmatched, early on. He's having good at bats. He's seeing the pitches well. I looked a little deeper, and it looks like the changeup and the fastball he's on, and he's struggling a little bit more with off speed, which all makes a lot of sense. That adjustment going from Double-A to Triple-A to the major leagues is a big adjustment, and the off speed stuff, I would assume that's when you're seeing like the best off speed stuff in the major leagues, fastballs you can hit. But again, he's recognizing it, and to me, as a young guy who's coming up and making all of these transitions, that's a huge piece to see early on. The fact that he's seeing the ball well, my eye test is that he's having good at bats. So he's the best option at first base right now.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, lefty on the mound, J.D. Davis is going to be playing,
which is going to put them in positions to win, right? Like if you look at and again, I'm going back to first base. And I mean to positions to win. I mean the player. If you're playing them against their strength within the splits, then you're putting them in a better position to compete at the plate. And I think that's a good thing, especially given the names who they have. They should do that. If Ben Rice gets on a heater on a hot streak, play him a little bit more. If he's having good at bats against lefties, I think that they'll just kind of see how it rolls.
It does really seem like first base and left field seems to be cursed for Brian Cashman because, I mean, obviously Teixeira was there, that he was a force, but like then he got injured and it was kind of a revolving door of people at first base after Teixeira's wrist injury in the 2013. Yeah, no, but like you had Teixeira's wrist injury in 2013 WBC, and then first base has been a constant revolving door. Left field, once Matsui broke his wrist.
Yes, 2 wrist injuries here.
Broke his wrist and ended his consecutive game streak Left field, they had, I mean, Johnny Damon played left field. Obviously, that was good. Brett Gardner played left field. That was good. But then since, left field the past couple years, and then if you go back to the 90s left field, the Yankees never had a good left fielder in the 90s. It was always Ricky Leday, Shane Spencer, Darryl Strawberry off the bench.
Yeah. Yeah. Is Brett Gardner, did he officially retire yet?
I don't know. He's just chopping wood in South Carolina, just not listening to anything.
Yeah.
Remember he used to drive to South Carolina after the season with the radio off?
Yeah, he's a throwback. I would love to hear from him to see what he's doing.
That's the craziest move I've ever heard. Like a 15-hour ride with no radio, just silence, just the wind.
What is that? Is that sociopath?
Yeah, that's sociopathic. You're fucking damn right it is. The crap cherry on top of Stanton's injury is that like this would be the opportunity to call up Dominguez if he didn't have that oblique.
100%, man. Like this was supposed to be the baseball gods, again working it out just by natural selection, but unfortunately, Dominguez is on the shelf probably for the majority of the season at this point. Who knows if he makes a contribution at all during the season when he comes back. But yeah, it's bad. So now we got Trent Grisham, who's going to be playing
a lot of
more
at
center
bats.
field.
Trent Grisham's going to get a lot of at bats. You're going to give the DH spot, like we said. Soto and Judge are going to get some DH time to give a half day rest.
Yeah, and Soto. I'm curious to how that works. If he even's accepts the opportunity to, or even if they put him in that spot to do it more often.
I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be every other day. I'm sure he'll DH 2 times a week.
I bet he doesn't. No way. 2 times a week?
So
the guy plays every day in the field too. Like
so
that's
then
a big deal.
Judge is going to DH 5-6 times a week?
No, I think you're going to see Glaber more. I think you're going to see Judge for sure.
What is the point of that?
Verdugo. I don't know. I just Soto's the type of guy you kind of don't fuck with.
Judge has also said he doesn't like DHing. So
Yeah, but
maybe
he's
don't
also
mess with
done it
either
well.
of them. And then you got
That's fine. Yeah, just sub out the shitty players.
the vaunted bat of Gleyber Torres in the DH role.
Yeah, that'll be a tough one. That'll be a tough one. But we'll see, man. Like Trent Grisham has been he's been good in big spots. He's gotten some pop. We'll see what he does with more regular playing time. Mm-hmm. He's got the ability. He had that in San Diego. He had some pop when he was down there. He works the count a little bit.
Isn't he at 4 or 5 home runs for the Yankees? Right.
Yeah. So
in like 7 hits.
Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised by Trent Grisham.
Maybe. Playing the Mets this week. Day off on Monday. Garrett Cole's second start. Have they said how many pitches he's going to throw? Who the hell knows?
Yeah, who knows? It's, I don't know. I hope it's progression. Can we just get some progression? Can we get a higher number?
More than 62?
Yeah. Can
Or
we get
what
a
is
higher
it? 60,
number?
I forget if it was 62 or 67.
So at least it's a 2-game set. They have an off day today, so they can plan for it a little bit more. But the problem is they're going to plan for it. You know what I mean? Like
they got time to
67 pitches and he's out of the game, and they whatever the plan is today is the plan tomorrow, no matter what.
The annoying thing,
no matter what he says, how good he feels.
The annoying thing is that it seems like they have the pitch number in mind. And it doesn't matter the stress of those pitches. That's the number they go with. So, like, in this last outing against Baltimore, he came back out for the 5th inning he comes back out for and gets pulled after the one batter because Boone didn't want him to go over whatever number of pitch that was. But, like, not all pitches are created equal in the stress department. So, like, can you use your eyes and use the trust in Garrett Cole to say, no, I'm good for 5 more pitches, or I'm not good. Like, I'm not saying you go out there and let him throw 112 pitches, but I mean, what are we doing here? 65, 67, 73 pitches. What the hell is the difference?
Progression, at least progression. Get his arm worked up more, not less. Not less.
So, Cole versus David Peterson, almost said David Robertson for the Mets. Luis Gil versus Sean Anaya.
And let me ask you a question. When you have an absolute professional athlete, when they're going out and playing in a game, whether it's a rehab assignment, whether they're gearing up to play, whether it's the playoffs, whether it's the regular season, a guy like Garrett Cole, You don't think he's taking those rehab games very seriously and trying to simulate what it would be like in a regular, from every aspect of it? Like he's probably imagining, a major league team and major league players in the box when he's going up against the Toledo Mud Hens or whomever. You know what I mean? Like he's probably visualizing, the Atlanta Braves over there or the Mets, whoever his next start's going to be, and being able to give that type of effort, trick his mind into thinking he's in a major league park. He's got that ability.
That's a lot of ramp up. That's a lot of what was adrenaline.
Yeah, the adrenaline.
Victor Gonzalez is also DFA'd.
That was surprising, to be honest. Over Turd Ferguson. He would have been. I would have put money on Turd Ferguson being the first one to be DFA'd of the two.
I think he was just whoever pitched last.
At least he hit someone.
Yeah, but I think they were just like, well, this guy has pitched more recently, so he's less useful to us tomorrow. So let's DFA him.
Yeah, that was a great trade.
Oh boy! All right, that's gonna wrap up today's show. I guess we're gonna be back at you after the Mets series. So Wednesday night, Thursday morning, we'll record after the 2-game set. Mailbags, submit your mailbag questions for that episode. info@bronxpinstripes.com. Been loving the mailbag so far. You guys have been bringing it. So keep that up. Anything else, Scott?
Yeah, if you haven't sent one in,
do it.
Take a quick minute, send one in. info@bronxpinstripes.com. Again, I'm checking the email, so might as well send them in.
All right, we'll talk to you in a few days.